Sorry about the mess. Hello, name's Butcher. Billy Butcher. Suits lose hundreds of people each year as collateral damage. That's where I come in. Spank the bastards when they get out of line. I've got the boys back together.
We're the seven champions of the innocent.
Mother... That was diabolical. Howdy, boys. Well. About fucking time.
Hello and welcome to Boys Banter, a Who Watches podcast about the Amazon Prime series, The Boys. I'm Travis Fishburne.
I'm Dustin Meadows.
And this week we are going to be covering all three of the episodes that are currently out for season 2, which just premiered on Friday on Amazon Prime.
I forgot to unmute myself again. But I caught it this time.
Good. So a little bit of I think before we jump right into all three of these Deluge episodes that were sent to us, I think we should give a little bit of thoughts about season 1 and how we all responded to that. Dustin, would you like to go first?
Yeah, absolutely. So real quick backstory. I read the comics when they came out, like as they were being released.
Yeah, I just want to say I'm happy you're here to be our resident guy who's read the book.
Yeah, so the comic debuted in 2006 during the Bush administration, which is hugely relevant to the comic, and then ran for 6 years, wrapping up in 2013 or so. There was like a special event, like some delays and stuff, but all told, about 72 issues of the comic, written by Garth Ennis, who did Preacher, who did some noteworthy runs on Hellblazer, on Judge Dredd, who basically revived the Punisher in the early 2000s for Marvel. One of my favorite writers, phenomenal writer. This is very much in the vein of the comic Preacher, where it's kind of pushes the envelope a little in terms of the comedy and the content. And when they've been talking about adapting this for years, initially as a movie, and then finally some ground was moving forward on it coming out as a show, and I was pumped. I was very excited about it because it's one of my favorite comics, even though it is definitely not aged well, which is a problem with some of Garth Ennis' work. It's a bit edgelordy, but it's still pretty good on the whole. And I loved the first season. I was super stoked for it, especially when they announced Carl Urban as Billy Butcher, one of the leader of the Boys, who's a phenomenal actor who doesn't get enough leading roles, period. I think this is a great role for him. I love the season. I think they changed enough from the comics to make it interesting. Like I've reread the comics probably 5 or 6 times, and by the end of season 1, I sincerely had no clue what to expect, which is great because it's like, if you go watch, like, Infinity War or something, you know how Infinity War is going to end because they stick pretty close to the comics. Mm-hmm, but something like this has definitely taken some liberties. Eric Kripke, the showrunner, who also does Supernatural, has taken a lot of different directions with the show, and frankly, directions that I think have worked better for the story in the context of a series as opposed to a comic book. So I loved it, is the short answer. A lot of fun. Great time. Just rewatched the first season over this weekend to gear up for watching the first couple episodes of season 2, and still holds up. Still a fan. So that's my take.
Yeah. Alex, what did you think of season 1?
I mean, pretty much all of those same things. I feel very strongly that way about Carl Urban, to the point that he was on this like very short-lived, I think it had 13 episodes, show on Fox called Almost Human, which was just like this crappy futuristic like cop with an android partner, procedural with some like sci-fi bent. Like, it was fun. It was like 2013 okay TV, which would be now like nigh unwatchable. But but like, I watched it because Carl Urban is just great. And it's interesting. It's just as an aside that I think is funny. Like Dominic Cooper in Preacher, the TV show, and Carl Urban in this show look basically the same.
Yes, I was
yeah.
thinking that too when they first announced this.
Like, the angles of their head and hair are, like, the same thing. It just looks like maybe if Jesse didn't bathe for, like, 3 weeks, then it's just like Carl Urban and the boys.
Yeah, I think it's only when they have beards, though.
Yes.
If they're clean-shaven, not even remotely. But
Totally.
But you beard them up, both of them.
Absolutely.
You could get confused.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally swap those actors around in those roles.
But when I was working on a TV show last year, my colleague Graham was insistent that I start watching The Boys, and I was like, every show is good. I can't just watch all the shows that are supposed to be good, because 75% of TV is just currently good, and I just can't watch it all. No one can. I have to draw a line. And the last time I tried to do that was with Westworld, and then somebody pitched me on Westworld in a way that made me interested, and then I watched 2.5 seasons of that piece of crap. Westworld pissed me off.
We'll agree to disagree there.
Sorry to diverge, but I finally started watching The Boys earlier this year, pre-pandemic, and then finished it just a few weeks ago. Really, really enjoyed it. The darkness. I wasn't quite. Oh, we can say spoilers abound, right? Like, we don't.
Yeah.
This is a spoiler-filled
we should have
show.
said that up top.
So, the scene where Homelander and Maeve murder a plane full of people, basically, I love. I want Homelander and the man who plays him to be erased from this planet, but I love that scene. And the guy who plays him is amazing. I just he's one of those guys where it's just the character. I only see him as the character, and I want the character to go away and die.
Yeah.
So.
And this is going to be the first of many moments. So in the comics,
yes,
the plane accident is actually 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
That they fail to intervene in. So it's like an alternate timeline where 9/11 does happen, but the plane that they try to rescue, basically the same thing happens. They're not trained for it. The pilot gets killed. They don't know what to do. They all bail, and then the plane crashes into the Brooklyn Bridge, which then gets converted into essentially the equivalent of Ground Zero instead of the Twin Towers.
Wow, interesting.
Which again, clearly tied to that time because it was written during the Bush administration.
Right.
So it was a lot closer to that. But yeah, I think definitely tweaking it serves the story for the series better that way. Although the 9/11 thing is still great for the comics.
No, that's an amazing punch. But the way that it played out in the show, I was like, oh, this is really it's not often where it's I'm watching something and I feel like I'm watching something where the characters are doing true evil, fully knowing doing true evil. Because often when the bad guys are doing evil shit, it's they don't really think they're the bad guys and blah blah blah. But it's no, they know this is evil. They're doing the evil. Mm-hmm. The tone of it was just very striking to me. And then when I finally picked up and watched the back half of the season a couple weeks ago, I never had any idea it was coming. Right up until poor Elizabeth Shue gets her eyes bored out with lasers. Mm-hmm. What a great scene, and then what a way to end the season. I would have been real peeved if I had seen that season finale a year ago and was like, oh, now I must wait.
Yep, that was me. And again, that was probably one of the first moments where I thought, I don't know what to expect, because in the comics, Butcher's wife is dead. So when they showed her alive with the son, I was like, I don't know what to expect going forward, which is a huge credit to the showrunners. Yeah. Keeping us guessing. And I'm all for it. I'm for those changes if they serve the story.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Dustin, I was a latecomer to the comic because I just started reading it a little over a month ago and just kind of realized how different it is from the show in terms of what they decided to take from it and what they decided to just we're going to do our own thing. And it seems like they're taking a lot of the characters and ideas and they're just placing them in different situations, because the whole translucent murder, that's not a thing in the comic.
No. Well, and even the nature of Starlight's sexual assault at the hands of the Deep is very different.
Yeah.
in the show than it is in the comics.
I feel the comic is a little too crude at times, to the point where I was like, oh, I really appreciate the show so much more.
But like I said, there are definitely parts of the comic that have not aged well. And Garth Ennis can also punch down a lot with his humor. And some of that stuff just comes across as mean-spirited. Case in point, Starlight in the comics, I don't think is written as well as she deserves to be. But the show is doing a phenomenal job with her, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, with all that out of the way, I think, and we've got 3 episodes to get into, we should jump into season 2. Also, as everybody probably heard in the intro here, we tend to shy away from certain language on this show, but because
in the past
we're covering, the boys, and because every single clip I was trying to pull of Billy Butcher, I couldn't avoid certain words. There will be some adult language in this show.
Yeah, I took advantage of that already without warning anybody. But in all honesty, if like Renee is listening to this with Jackson, that is a bad choice.
No. Warnings were already given. Don't do that.
I'd say I feel like that rule was in place when we did The Mandalorian, and I just always forgot that rule was in play.
I had some fun trying to avoid cursing when we were doing the podcast about kids movies.
No F-bombs on your Prehysteria episode?
There was, like, early on I kept cursing, and Travis would find creative ways to bleep them, and then, like, eventually I just started censoring myself correctly.
Oh, what a time.
Prehysteria, heard a lot of dinosaur sounds.
Yeah.
That's so much better than a censor's beep.
Yeah, no, Travis is very good with the creative editing on the on the release podcast and the live stream. It was I would have gotten FCC fines if that was a thing on the internet.
It's pirate radio, baby.
I do remember a day when I was a DJ, and I did do like 4 FCC violations in like 30 minutes. So I never got in trouble. I was just like, I really hope no one was listening. But it was WBGU, so no one was listening.
I listened a couple of times, but it was usually just to call in and win tickets when you were DJing.
Yeah, exactly. Context. We've all known each other for like 15 years, internet.
Yeah.
What a time.
We're old. So, Travis, you didn't talk about your reaction to the first season of the... Oh, wait, we skipped ahead. We're talking about the new season now. Cool.
Yes.
Great.
So let's start with the premiere that's called The Big Ride. Mm-hmm. So general synopsis is with Butcher still missing, Huey, Mother's Milk, Frenchie, and Kimiko are now fugitives, and Homelander and Vought are more powerful than ever. But just as the boys are about to leave the country, they're pulled back into the fray. This episode opens with a montage in which we see Black Noir taking out these terrorists, and we also see Stan Edgar, the Giancarlo Esposito character, running things for Vought.
Right. Can I make 2 comments?
Yes, I know one of them.
Yeah, one of them is Sympathy for the Devil needs to be permanently retired from all media. If there's ever a repress of whatever Rolling Stones album, like, don't take it off streaming. I'm not trying to delete the song. Just, like, please, music supervisors, just take it out of your iTunes library. No one needs to hear Sympathy for the Devil. And I almost want to say the same thing about the use of Psycho Killer in episode 2, but I just like that song better, so I'm not as mad about hearing it again. But, and my other thought is Giancarlo Esposito in every show?
Yeah, that's becoming another trope.
Yeah, season 2, Big Bad Giancarlo.
I mean, great. I love the dude. He's a fantastic villain. He's a great actor. I love seeing him. But like, damn, he's in like 3 TV shows I'm quote unquote currently watching. Like, it's madness.
Yeah. But at the same time, I'm not really upset about it because he does it so well.
Yeah.
I feel like this show is like the last one I can accept before he's in
like, "No
something
more."
playing a villain, and I'm like, all right, it's too much.
Yeah.
I need, if he's in something else, I want him to play somebody who's not a powerful villain.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then we go to Translucent's funeral, in which they staged a whole funeral with an empty glass coffin, and I love that you can see they put like some fake. It looks like you've got an invisible person in there, like holding down the cushions.
Yeah, indented foam in the cushions or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a good effect.
Yeah. But of course, Homelander uses this as an opportunity to, propagate fighting super terrorists.
Super villains.
Yes. Because
because he's the PR department now.
Yeah. I do want to say, one of my favorite things in this scene is that out of nowhere, Starlight, for some reason, is a pop star now.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And there was a real subtle joke that, like, you blink and you'll miss it, but one of the tickers during the broadcast says to buy the single's now available on Vodify. Which I was like, oh, that's beautiful, and just, oh boy, yeah, they really are just evil or Disney, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
And then we get a cut to the Deep at it looks like maybe like a TGI Fridays bar or something along those lines. And he's had too many drinks and he's getting upset. And the bartender tells him it's time to go, or I call TMZ.
Yeah, that was good.
Yep.
And then not soon afterwards, we get another montage in which Huey and Starlight are going about their business, and we kind of see what they're up to, set to Billy Joel's Pressure, which I was a much bigger fan of this opening montage than the previous one. I also really like if it's like a season opener for a show, or if it's a sequel to a movie, and you get kind of a montage of the characters and you kind of see the new status quo. I really like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good way to start off.
Yeah, I feel like Rise of Skywalker could have used one of those. But
Rise of Skywalker could have used a lot of things.
Are we going to do another 2.5-hour podcast about our further thoughts on Rise of Skywalker? Because I feel like we could.
Let's save it for its own episode.
So then they get to meet on a bus, in which they're trying to secure some Compound V. And Huey is a little jealous of Starlight and her running around with Ansel Adams, or
he thinks
Alden
it's Ansel Adams.
Ehrenreich.
It's the guy from Solo.
Yeah, the guy from
was
Solo.
Confusing, like Ansel Elgort is what he almost said.
Yeah. I was like, of all the people to be jealous of, you're jealous of the person who had the least warm reception for a Star Wars movie. He's not going to steal her.
And then we cut back to the Deep, and he's wreaking havoc at the Sandusky Splash Zone.
This scene is really funny.
Yeah, it's a great scene.
Like, it was actually very hard for the show over the course of the last season to make me, like, interested in watching the Deep do his own story, just because he starts off as such a shitbag. So it was hard for me to want to care that much about, like, I don't want to just go and spend another 10 minutes with the Deep, like, fuck this guy. But but at this season, by the end of last season and now in this season, I'm just like, this is comedy gold. Like, I love that he's comedy relief straight up and down. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Sidelining him to Sandusky is definitely the best story arc they could have given him.
Sandusky.
I love that. Yeah, like you said, Alex, the beginning of season 1, you're like, oh, this prick. And then as it goes on, it's kind of like a Game of Thrones-ish thing that they do, where they turn these people that you think are just absolute scumbags, and they make you feel like some sympathy for them,
right,
with what they go through.
You just got to put people in Ohio, and people will feel sympathy for you.
Yeah.
On a similar note to Alex's sympathy for the devil, I will always laugh anytime Everybody Hurts by REM is used for something.
Yeah.
But there are other sad songs that can underscore that too.
Yeah, I felt like that I agree with that, but I also felt like that was more of a knowing joke.
Oh, for sure.
than
It
anything
absolutely
else.
was.
Whereas Sympathy for the Devil is just like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm trying to. I think the only time I've liked it was at the end of Interview with the Vampire,
Sure.
and I don't know if I liked its use or I just liked that Tom Cruise showed up again at the end. So
Fair point.
well, and I think it's actually the Guns N' Roses version in Interview. So
I think you're right.
yeah.
I should rewatch Interview with the Vampire.
Another fun little detail in that scene is when they open and you see where he is, the splash zone font that they used to open with, it's the exact same as the Cedar Point font.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah. So then we see the boys watching TV, and they see this update that they're all wanted. And we also get an update on Madeline Stillwell's baby, which was found safe 17 miles away.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which I found kind of ridiculous and crazy that Homelander would even do that.
I was real curious about that. I was like, yeah, no, Homelander definitely let that baby die, right?
Yeah.
He hated that baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought, I mean, like, my thought about that is, like, why do 17 miles away? Why? Because isn't the idea to, like, just Butcher did this, period? Then how did Butcher, like, get a baby 17 miles away and then vanish?
Yeah.
You know, and it's, like, this conundrum, which they mentioned. They discussed that briefly. You know that. That's all. Travis, is that a Uniqlo shirt? I have a shirt very similar to that.
Oh, I don't know.
Sorry. The boys.
And
I'm wearing my
advice.
Homelander colors, just like his son Ryan does in every single scene.
Is he wearing is he wearing red, white, or red and blue in every single scene, the kid?
Yeah, with the exception of the pajamas he wears in episode 2, like they're always putting him in red and blue.
Oh, interesting.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Touch.
Yeah, and then next scene we get Homelander drinking mother's milk, the prop, not the character.
Yeah.
Right. It's in the creepiest scene in the show.
Yeah.
Well, and then every time he drinks milk after that, then becomes the new creepiest scene.
Yes.
All I could think of when he was drinking Stillwell's milk was that Chappelle Show sketch where the dude in the Making the Band drinks it, or Puff Daddy drinks it. He just goes, breast milk, you made my day. I was like, no, I cannot, like, I couldn't stop laughing and then also being immediately creeped out. What a weird fucking scene.
Yep.
Well, at least he warmed it up before he did that. So, and then he
that makes it worse.
And then he meets a potential new member of the Seven that Ashley Barrett has brought to the tower. His name's Blind Spot, who may or may not be a daredevil.
Yep.
And after interrogating him a little, Homelander deafens him and then tells Barrett that he's going to be the one to pick out the next member of the Seven.
Yeah. I liked this scene a lot, actually.
Yeah.
I liked it. It made me so uncomfortable.
Oh, totally.
I think, like, of all the things in the show thus far, like, that one, I don't know. It was, like, one of the hardest ones for me to watch him just do this on a whim to this poor man.
One of the things I like about the show that they're doing different is I like that they're being that Homelander's being so much more upfront with just how terrifying and menacing he actually is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, in the comics, like, it takes so long before he gets to that point. And, like, they just kind of hit the ground running. There's like, yeah, no, we're going to lean into it pretty early on. This guy is, like, the world's strongest sociopath.
I have a thought on that, too, which is that I do like it. I do like that our experience with the characters is, like, the real characters. They're we're seeing the real version of themselves. We're not seeing, like, the Vought front.
Mm-hmm.
But since Homelander in particular is so extreme on those ends, the image that he presents to the public and what he actually is, the fact that we spend so much time with him as just our main villain, and then I think it's in episode 2, but it's more pertinent to this part of the conversation. But when Maeve tells her former partner, her ex-girlfriend, that Homelander's actually super dangerous, she's like, really, Homelander? And I'm just sitting here like, you're surprised? The guy's obviously evil. But like, but that's not the perception in the world. So like, that always hits me a little bit weird when like we talk to characters who don't know that Homelander is like straight up evil.
Yeah, because you just see like the press conferences and everything.
Yeah, and we as an audience don't see that so much. So that's a little bit of a disconnect for me. Which is not to say I don't like how we're seeing the character, but it's just a little bit of a disconnect there for me.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yeah, and then we move on and we see Starlight. She traces her old friend Gecko from Capes for Christ, and she sees him go to a motel with a strange man, and there's a big mystery as to what's going to happen. And the whole lead up, I'm like telling Sarah, I'm like, something weird and bad's about to happen. I don't know what it is. But then we find out that Gecko can regrow his limbs, and he just sells them off to people who wants the experience of cutting them off.
Yeah, I thought it was just going to be something normal, like, being a male prostitute. And then as soon as he said like 400 for an arm or a leg, I was like, oh, he's going to let this dude mutilate him. Okay.
Yeah, I love the cap on that scene. It's like, for an extra $1,000, I'll let you cut my dick off.
Yeah. And then, of course, the guy's follow-up say, "Where's the nearest ATM?"
Right. It was great. I love that. Yeah, I just thought that was a great little twist. Like, what's the grossest thing we could make happen here in this hotel room?
Yeah, and then we see that one of Frenchie's men comes back with a broken arm. More than broken, just completely mangled off.
Pulverized.
Yeah.
After being attacked by a rogue soup that was brought in on a boat, which the boat was thrown on him.
Right, we learn.
Yeah, when they trace it back and they look at the video and they find out that somebody's on the loose. Then we go to a focus group that's trying to determine whether super terrorist or super villain is more appropriate, which Homelander is very adamant that they go with the super villain as opposed to super terrorist.
Yeah, I will say this is one of the touches that the show does where, like, because clearly they set up from the beginning again, like, superheroes are a product, they're a thing to be managed and like represented and like have their and be scripted. And I really like getting a glimpse into this where we're seeing a focus group, and even the lady who responds, like, she talks about how the word terrorist like makes her uneasy, but like supervillain, there's like, oh, well, that's scary, but it's like the okay kind of scary.
Right, the exciting scary.
Yeah, like just watching how they kind of manage that, and like every aspect of what they do is like determined on that. It's just really cool. Like I think the showrunners have done a lot of great job at showing us kind of the behind the scenes stuff and like really world building the universe that the boys exist in.
Totally,
yeah. And then we see the Deep. He's in a jail in Sandusky, and then he's bailed out by Eagle, who's an Archer character, or not an Archer as in the show, but he's like a Hawkeye character or Green Arrow. He takes him. Well, first he offers him a Fresca.
Would you like a Fresca?
And then he takes him to his friend Carol, who offers him some hope of getting back into the Seven. Right. And she also offers him a Fresca.
What is this Fresca thing? Is the Fresca drugged? Is this just like Fresca product placement? And why is it not LaCroix? Because there is LaCroix later at a different point in the episode.
Yeah, it's in Madeline's fridge with the breast milk.
Yeah. So, I don't know. The Fresca thing. I want the Fresca thing to pay off. If the Fresca thing doesn't pay off, I'm going to be pissed.
Maybe the Church of the Collective has a sponsorship.
I wonder who Scientology is sponsored by. Soda wise.
Would you like a fresca?
Well, we know it's not Fago.
Yes, we
No.
do.
Well, ICP's not sponsored by it either, so maybe they are. Who knows?
ICP is sponsored by God.
And then I love this this story that Eagle tells about a hostage situation at a Kroger in which he ran out of arrows.
But he realized that archery was an ancient and beautiful art form, and that he couldn't give up.
Yup.
Yeah.
Really quick on an unrelated note, Eagle the Archer is actually played by a comedian named Langston Kerman, who I've met, who is a super nice guy.
Oh, cool.
And it's great that comedians are getting work, so that's nice.
Good work, guys.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I feel like the running out of arrows thing, like if the MCU wasn't on hold, that probably would have popped up in a Hawkeye like scene at some point, but they beat Joss Whedon to the punch, so he can suck it.
Yeah.
For that and other reasons.
I love the questions that she's asking him. One of them is, if you don't have any self-esteem issues, why are you constantly degrading women? And then Eagle just like pops in and goes, that's a good question, Deeb. Just the delivery of that.
Yeah, I love to it didn't become apparent to me what was happening until she says the line, "We believe therapy is destructive." I was like, oh no, she's part of a weird fucking cult.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Because like I thought like maybe she was some kind of like a grief counselor or a life coach or something. I was like, oh no,
Yeah,
she's
no.
all the way full of shit. Got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
the Church of the Collective is absolutely just this show's analog for Scientology.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Or whatever it was in Bowfinger.
Mindhead.
Yes,
Yeah.
fucking Mindhead.
Head.
Oh. Well, here's hoping that Terrence Stamp shows up as the head of the Church of the Collective.
Is he gonna have to tell the Deep not to show it to the Laker girls?
Yes. I mean, that would fit.
Oh, no.
That is canon with the Deep's history so far. So.
Totally
Yeah,
is.
it's true. I also love like the actress playing Carol is Jessica Heck, and
Oh, she's so great.
yeah, and she is from Breaking Bad, and so I love like all the Breaking Bad alums or Better Call Saul alums in this show.
Walt's old partner, Dustin, if you're
Yeah.
trying to remember her
Mhm.
character on Breaking Bad.
Gretchen.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
His legit former partner.
His actual former partner, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
gotcha. The couple from
Yeah.
was it Gray Matter?
Yes.
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 Mhm.
Okay. Gotcha. Because I was like, that wasn't the girl at the end of the show, Lydia.
No, and
Gotcha.
also forgot to shout out Jim Beaver, who
Yeah.
I love that he's in this show, and he's playing a politician, which he never gets to play those kind of characters. He's usually like a very gruff,
Rural kind of fellow.
yes, exactly. So,
I'm hoping this means more Deadwood and Justified alums show up in the show. So
oh yeah,
if we can get Walton Goggins as an actually well-written villain in a comic book related movie, that'd be awesome.
that'd be great. But then we hold on. We get Kamiko is trying to get Frenchie to understand the word boy, which he does not understand.
Which she does not
And-
understand. Took me a little while. It took me until she wrote boy next to girl for me to figure out what she was trying to say.
It took me until the character was introduced and Frenchie spelled it out to be like, oh, that thing.
Yep. It took me until the same moment. I was like, I still don't get it. Oh, this is the guy. Oh, brother, got it. Okay.
Usually I'm not the quick one. I feel good now.
And then Huey tells Mother's Milk that he's working with Annie to get Compound V, which Mother's Milk is not very thrilled about that.
No. Mother's Milk oscillates a lot in the first 3 episodes as to who he's mad at and why and how he's feeling about things in general.
Yeah. He's way angrier in the show than he is in the comics most of the time.
I feel like he's used in the show as like, it's not like, I don't feel like he's written as inconsistently as I might be implying right now, but like I feel like he's really written for like what is the foil that this character needs in this moment? Oh, just give that to Mother's Milk.
Yeah, I mean, that being said, I still think he works, and I still think the character
totally
works.
Yeah, I don't know. I
Sure.
think he's great, but they use him as a utility quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Annie meets up with her friend Gecko and blackmails him into getting her some Compound V.
He's like so hurt by this. It made me really bummed out. Because like she's becoming like, you know, she's not obviously as scummy as the rest of the Seven, but like, you know, that's
She's
not
playing
far.
dirty now.
Yeah, it's like it's not far off the level. Like she will betray a person who just like they were friendly and nice to each other, and like he just thinks that she's a friend, and she's gonna be like, oh no, you have to do a thing for me, or or I'm gonna out you. And it's a dirty business.
Yeah. After they were reminiscing how he always got to play Jesus because nobody else could take a nail to the hand.
Oh, that's a good gag.
Yeah. And then we cut to Homelander and Queen Maeve. They're shooting a campaign commercial. And then we're all introduced to Stormfront, who's the newest member of the Seven. And she's live streaming the whole behind the scenes thing. Just seems to be like completely obliterating any non-disclosure agreement that she might have signed.
I was like, how is she getting away with this right now?
Yeah, so this was another one of the, especially in like the first like press releases and new clips from the show. This was another one of those huge shocking moments for me, because in the comics, Stormfront doesn't show up till about halfway through. Stormfront is a gigantic man with pretty much the same powers, and he is an overt neo-Nazi.
Oh wow!
Like he is like just like to the point of literally like I think there's an SS band worked into his costumes design.
Whoa!
Like it is very, they are very upfront with it, and I was like, I don't feel like they bailed on that aspect with this character, but they're definitely holding back on dropping that reveal, which did end up playing out eventually, which we'll get to. But yeah, she comes off as like kind of likable in the beginning, and I was waiting. I was like, when's the shoe gonna drop? When do we get to see?
Yeah,
what
like
really
let's just talk
happens
about
with
her episode by episode, because like it's really a different view on the character with each passing episode.
But yeah, this is essentially a millennial character basically getting brought into the fold.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And like, yeah, it's real interesting seeing how she's introduced, and then just Homelander's response to not being like brought in on that, like to consult him,
right,
or anything.
Like he absolutely would have killed her if there wasn't like hundreds of people around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I like that Homelander, Becca, Butcher's wife, was initially hired to be like kind of a PR person who like ran Homelander's Twitter account and stuff, because he had no idea how to do any of that. And we've got this Stormfront character who is very, social media savvy and is just very much the opposite of him in that regard.
Right.
And knows how to like actually create this persona in maybe a little bit of a more genuine way than Homelander ever could.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's really interesting too, even seeing her measured up against Starlight, because Starlight is clearly close in age to Stormfront, but she's genuinely concerned about actually being a superhero, as opposed to the dog and pony show that goes along with being a member of the Seven.
Right.
So seeing how those two contrast is really interesting as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I guess it's more in episode 2. Yeah, we'll talk about it in episode 2. Their stuff. Covering a lot of ground, people.
Yeah. So then the boys meet up with Raynor from the CIA. So when they tell her about the guy from the boat, she says it was like the last piece of some puzzle that had to do with Vought, and then all of a sudden her head just explodes.
That was diabolical.
Well, Huey notices her nose is bleeding, then it explodes. And as soon as he said that, I was like, she's going to blow up.
Yeah.
No one's nose starts bleeding in anything, and they don't either go into like an overdose seizure or explode. Those are the only two outcomes.
Yeah, didn't they? And correct me if I'm wrong, but they kind of ganked that from Mission Impossible 3, no? like the nosebleed followed by exploding head.
Yeah.
Is that? I mean, isn't that? Does
Or
that
is that
happen in That's like, I feel like it's a more general thing because like, doesn't that happen in scanners too when they're about to blow somebody's head up? Or am I making that
they
up?
start to the nosebleed. Yeah, I guess it's just a precursor of your head blowing up, which is.
Yeah, it's
I
like-
guess I'll just like be alert for that in my future anytime I get a nosebleed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, oh, cool, awesome. It's been great, I guess.
Somebody needs to write that into something now, where a character like suddenly gets a nosebleed, and it doesn't mean anything. It's
Yeah.
like no big deal.
It's like, oh, I'm okay.
That'll probably happen later in this season, actually, as more people are concerned that like whoever's watching is going to blow them up if they say the wrong thing. Somebody will get a nosebleed, and everybody will stand back,
I'm just start freaking out.
throw a bomb
Yeah.
helmet.
R.I.P. Spin City's Jennifer Esposito.
Yeah, that's another one of these scenes where I felt very. I didn't feel like it's obviously not as dark as the plane scene or like or the clapping, the deafening
Blind spot?
the blind spot scene.
Yeah.
But it is another time that the show like really does that, like, and does it well. It does this thing very well of putting you in a scenario where you really honestly think it's going to go one way. Even knowing what the show does to people and to characters and the audience, you still feel like, oh, I have an idea where the scene is going, and then it really can pull the rug out from under you.
Yeah, well, and this was another one of those moments for me because Raynor in the comics is in it until the end. So like seeing her head explode is like, I did not see this coming at all. 'Cause she's like a secondary player in the comics, like for the entire run.
Interesting.
Although I think they handle her character a lot better in the show than they do in the comics. So
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't think of like a single character in the show that's not handled, in a better way than how the comics presented them.
So what you're saying is the supernatural guy is a more talented writer than comic books luminary Garth Ennis.
I'm saying he is a less mean-spirited writer.
Fair enough.
Because goddamn, Garth Ennis is fucking mean to a lot of his characters.
Oh,
and
it's
most
very
of the
true. I haven't read.
Most of the time, they're women. So
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I haven't read The Boys, but I have read Preacher.
Yeah.
So
I think The Boys is meaner to women.
I don't doubt it.
Yeah, and then we see Homelander. He gets to meet up with Stanley Edgar because he's got some words to say, but then Edgar kind of turns the tables on him.
Oh, such a great scene.
It is a great
Gives
scene.
him, a little bit of history on Frederick Vaught and how he was appointed chief position at Dachau, where he was able to use, countless subjects to help test and create Compound V before he ended up switching sides and then became an American hero.
So through that, we learned that Compound V is the product of the Nazi super soldier experiments, basically.
Yes, which I believe is how it was in the comics too, if I remember right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It was a Nazi scientist defecting to America.
Yeah, and I like that concept a lot because that's a thing like you kind of hear in like about like the Nazi experiments, like they were trying to all the things they were trying to do and blah 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 blah. One of them
and make super soldiers trying to bring Hellboys into the world.
If you've ever seen the movie Elves starring Dan Haggerty, it's they had a plan to bring about the Fourth Reich through the sacrifice of a virgin at the hands of an elf. Like it's a Christmas movie, like Santa's Elves.
Not to be confused with the movie Elf. Singular.
Not to be confused.
It's
Unfortunately,
not a sequel like Aliens.
Unfortunately, Elves is one of these movies where it got skipped over on Laserdisc, DVD, and Blu. The last release of this movie. It's not streaming either. It's the last release is a VHS, and it's insane because friggin' Grizzly Adams plays washed up drunk mall Santa that has to stop the rise of the Fourth Reich.
Obviously, I need to see this movie, and I feel like after we're done, you're the guy to talk to about that.
I was gonna say Alex loves to bring up all these movies that nobody has access to.
Because these are the gems, people. The treat comes with the search.
Yeah, it's true.
Go on eBay, purchase a VHS of Elves. Anyway,
I'll also purchase a VCR on the same website.
Oh, you don't have two like me?
Not anymore.
The Boys.
Then tells Homelander that they are not a superhero company; they are a pharmaceutical company. Which I find, an interesting concept.
Well, because that's also the thing. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but like there's significant aspects of modern medical treatments that originated with Nazi experiments. Correct? Like,
I cannot speak with any authority on that.
I could be totally wrong, and I'm super sorry if I am. But I think that there is like scientific knowledge that is part of like common practice scientific medical knowledge today that was learned through evil Nazi experimentation.
That would make sense.
That could very likely be true.
Which would be like, pharmaceutical company. That's just like, yeah, that's what happened. But I could be making up crap that I thought I learned on the X-Files or something. Who knows what my sources are. I'm not a scholar.
Well, when the cigarette smoking man shows up, we'll know where it came from. But it's also interesting Giancarlo plays two supervillains that peddle out secret blue drugs.
Yeah, he do.
Yeah.
And then we get a Homelander. He goes to see his son. Not a whole lot happens in that scene yet,
Right.
but we will get more of some Homelander and father-son relationship building here later. But then Huey gets a call from Starlight letting him know that they're getting their Compound V sample so that they can burn Vought down. But Huey is very visibly shaken after what he's just gone through and is getting cold feet about it and does not disclose this to Starlight and lies to her again.
Yeah,
Men.
he does so much of it in the comics, but he is less stupid in the show at least, but he's still like just stupid enough that you still kind of want to strangle him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, did nobody see Disney's Aladdin? Have we not learned that you shouldn't lie unless you have a genie to get you out of whatever corner you back into?
And even so,
Yeah, you could still end up a certain creek without a certain paddle, just like Seth Green and the other two guys.
One of them was Matthew Lillard.
Yes,
Yeah.
there we go.
Was the other one Dax Shepard?
it was.
I was
Those are
gonna
all
say-
three
Nailed
of them.
it!
I was gonna say Breckin Meyer, but I was like, no, I don't think it was Breckin Meyer.
I nailed without a paddle.
Also Burt Reynolds.
Oh,
We should be so lucky. I'd watch that movie.
Oh, Bert.
Oh, R.I.P.
And then a body falls down the stairs and Billy Butcher shows back up.
Yes.
Because Frenchie called him into the picture and he tells Huey not to worry, Daddy's home.
Gross.
What? Carl Urban has had so many amazing line reads this entire show, but him grinning and saying "Daddy's home" in that accent might be his best line reading. Only after however many times he says "Oi cunt."
Oh, Amazon has been releasing these after shows for the boys, and they did one on the season 1 recap, and they bring Carl Urban in, and he talks about like the fan reaction, and he's like, "It's so weird. I've got so many people coming up to me who are fans who like are constantly asking me, can you call me a cunt?"
That's hilarious.
Again, on a Carl Urban fan note, he is frequently the best part of so many things I enjoy.
Yeah.
I still maintain that he's the best part of J.J. Abrams' Star Trek movies is Bones.
Having just
I can't argue with that.
having just rewatched all 3 of those movies in the past few weeks, completely agree. He's so good
Yeah.
in the 3rd one.
Yeah, Bones is phenomenal. The Dread is amazing, and it's a crime that it's not getting a sequel.
It made $4.
Yeah,
No,
I'm
I know
talking
though.
about
I
it-
agree. It made a ton of
Potentially
money.
becoming like a Netflix series.
Oh
or
yeah,
something,
no,
or something along that.
it would be huge. Like it would be.
I'll take it as long as it means Carl Urban playing Judge Dredd again. I'll take it, whatever form that is.
Yes, and I love that it was his insistence to never take the mask off too. Or
Yes,
the helmet.
oh, so good. Yeah,
Helmet.
Stallone knows he blew it. Even he admitted that he shouldn't have.
Yeah, you can't. Judge Dredd can't take the helmet off. I haven't even
he's
read that
faceless.
much Judge Dredd, but I have read enough to know that that helmet should never come off.
Yeah, that's the constant. Who
Yeah.
gives a shit who's under the mask?
Exactly. It's Dredd.
He's the law. That's all that matters. Who cares what the law looks like?
I was gonna diverge again. Let's not. Let's continue talking about the boys. Like further diverge. I was gonna go down a Dredd hole.
Oh no.
Ooh, my favorite kind of hole.
All right. So then we're going to jump into season or episode 2.
All right.
Which I think Alex will take the lead now.
Yeah. I'm gonna heavily credit Liz Shannon Miller of Collider, whose episode synopsis I'm aping, or just not aping. I'm referencing for going over this because
You're paying homage to.
I'm paying homage to the work of Liz Shannon Miller. Thank you, Miller. So, episode 2, proper preparation and planning. We open up with Carl Urban front and center in this one. And we see him kind of in the immediate aftermath of where we left him at the end of season 1. Which was, he gained consciousness in front of the home where his wife and Homelander's son live. So he basically wakes up outside of a chain restaurant called Tony Cicero's, and kind of just like using a crayon scribbles down her like what he remembers about the house before he sees himself on the news as a wanted criminal and knows he needs to bail right then and there. So he kind of reveals what his concept of what's going to happen is to the team. He attends Raynor's funeral, which is a nice and a funeral that Grace is at, and he really does this to ambush Grace, to try to get her to help kind of liaise with the CIA at this point, basically, because their CIA contact had her head popped, into getting the super terrorist that had just been smuggled in and basically trading him for the location of Becca, and also reuniting Mother's Milk with his family. That's Mother's Milk's goal in the show, too.
I want to say really quick, one of the nice little callbacks in this scene, in season 1, Raynor says she'll send an edible arrangement to a butcher's funeral.
Okay.
Yeah.
In this scene, there's an edible arrangement at her casket.
I didn't remember that was a callback. Thanks for that catch.
Yeah, and I only remember it because I watched all of season 1 in the last 40 hours.
Yeah,
So
so it's like in episode 2.
It's very fresh in my memory. And then again, really quick on another, it was different in the comics. Mallory in the comics is a man.
Interesting.
John Mallory, I think, in the comics, but Grace Mallory in the show. And I don't remember the actress's name is playing Mallory in the show.
Layla Robbins.
She's fucking great.
Yeah.
Like she is stone cold and like every bit as hard edged as he is in the comics. Is like, I am for all of these character changes that are happening in the show. I think they've been done really well so far.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm not paying attention to how they're adapted, but like I've liked all the characters so far. There's not been one I'm like, what the hell are they doing with this guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't felt that at all.
Yeah, there's another nice callback to season 1 because he woke up in front of a Tony Cicero's, which Tony Cicero's is the name of the restaurant where the abandoned restaurant where they took Translucent and blew him up.
I thought that because I remembered it seeming familiar, and I was like, I think that was it. Yeah.
Cool. So Kimiko is trying to communicate that she recognizes the identity of the super terrorist. It's her brother, Kenji, who she refers to via sign language as Mouse. They've developed their own sign language, we learn. So meanwhile, Starlight is like just waiting to get this compound V from Gecko, but she's being ushered along with Stormfront and Maeve to do a bit press junket with the catchphrase, "Girls get it done." Maeve bails when she gets a call, leaving Starlight and Stormfront to just go kind of do this by themselves. And that leads into the press junket scene, which is like actually really freaking funny.
Oh yeah.
where Stormfront and Starlight have to just deal with the same stupid ass questions over and over and over and over again. Which, like, you know, I've never been a journalist or, you know, a person being interviewed at a press junket. But I know that's how they go. Because, like, you see these things for, like, promos of actors talking about movies and stuff, and they're just in the same room. They just cycle in these journalists to ask them the same 5 freaking questions. Mm-hmm. And it's a miracle none of these people kill themselves. Like, I do remember... Do you remember when there was that one press junket interview where Ben Affleck got, like, really sad in the middle of an interview?
Yeah, that's for Batman v Superman.
Yeah.
Yes.
Moments like that. These kinds of situations lead to moments like that.
I love the way they handle it, and even down to the point where the journalists are feeding them, like, all these tacky things to say.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, can you say, like, girls are, like, strong as the new pretty, or whatever other
strong
awful,
as the new pretty
hashtag they can come up with, and just to see it is like we get it, we're empowered, but, like, also Jesus Christ, come on, like, it's really funny. I think they do a great job of kind of skewering that mentality of, like, not really understanding it, but just kind of mindlessly repeating the catchphrases of it all. Right,
and we have Stormfront breaking it up the whole time by not really playing that game. She goes off on, you know, why don't I have pockets in this damn costume, and, like, critiquing her action figure, and like, I think she even references, like, Annie's original outfit compared to her new outfit.
The new sexy outfit.
Yeah, and so, like, she's like in there tearing it down, which is like, and that's how we shift our perception of Stormfront in this episode, which is like, oh, is this, like, maybe another, like, real person on the team that we kind of need? That's what it kind of sets up, even though when Starlight kind of goes to her with that, like, hey, I agree with a lot of what you said, Stormfront's just like, fuck you, drone.
Yep.
And that was a thing that actually kind of bothered me a little bit, that Stormfront is, like, so hard on that, because, like, was she not one of the people that saw what Starlight did at that Christian rally? When she went off script and she said all, you know, stuff, like, along these lines of what Stormfront is now saying in the press junket, and it became, like, a huge media talking point.
So my perception of that, at least being addressed this way, is that Starlight's whole thing got turned into this positive spin for her.
Okay.
Like, I think if it had, like, been detrimental to her career and her profile,
right,
Stormfront would probably be less suspicious of it, but, like, she probably honestly thinks that Starlight
that
literally did that to kind of snowball and get her career rolling even hotter than it already was.
I'd buy that.
Yeah. That's how I took it.
Yeah, I totally buy that. That makes sense. Okay, cool. Thank you. Criticism retracted. And during this scene, one of the interviewers is like, how would you like to know that A-Train is here? And then A-Train busts in, and Starlight starts freaking out because the last time she saw him, he was having a heart attack, she was calling the paramedics, and Huey was escaping, and A-Train knew all of this.
I'm probably in the minority on this, but at that moment they announced A-Train and he popped out, the first thing I thought of was the scene in New Nightmare where Heather Langenkamp is doing the TV show, and then Robert Englund busts through in the Freddy Krueger costume out of nowhere.
I wish I had thought of that in that moment, because that is a great moment. I love New Nightmare.
I think it's entirely because I've watched it within the last year, so, like, and I saw it for the first time, so New Nightmare is still kind of really fresh to me, and because I'd never seen it before, and I was like, fuck, this is amazing. Like, why are more people not like on board with New Nightmare?
That movie is so good. I'm taking a lot of willpower to resist just talking about the Nightmare on Elm Street series now.
That'll be for another podcast.
Yeah, later.
I'll talk about Nightmare.
But this is also pretty like tense, because just after the press junket is when Gecko meets up with Starlight and is like, here's your sample, here's the compound V, and she's like, oh, I can't take it now, and he's like, fuck you, take it now, we're done. And she has to stash it somewhere. She kind of makes an A-Train thinks, and we as an audience think, that she stashes it in her boot, because as we've established, these characters do not have pockets in their costumes. Yep. And then there's this, like, really tense scene between Starlight and A-Train. He searches her leg, but Starlight has stashed the little pouch in Stormfront's backpack, which she brings around because no pockets. So she gets it out of the building that way. At the end of the episode, I'm just fast forwarding a little bit to like wrap that up. A-Train breaks into her apartment, unbeknownst to her, and kind of like just finds out that she has this bottle of V, and she goes in like dark mode, and is like, "Look, you can do whatever, but if you do that, I will reveal to the world that you murdered Popclaw, and we'll both go down." Like it's the mutually assured destruction thing, and she sets that up in no uncertain terms. And surprisingly, A-Train backs down and just leaves.
Yeah, that's a great moment for her because like, and again, I know we mentioned it earlier, the stuff with Gecko. Like she's definitely playing dirty. She's only playing dirty with people who are dirty already, though.
That's true.
Which is good because like at no point like she's definitely done like crooked things, but she hasn't done anything that makes her like unredeemable. She hasn't done anything that's like caused harm to an innocent or anything like that.
Right. Yeah, it's not like she's ever doing anything where it's like, okay, this person died, but it's a means to an end, and the end is good. She is working for good, and she's just kind of being shitty to people rather than doing evil stuff to people.
Yeah, well, because I mean, if we've learned anything from Spaceballs, it's that good is dumb. So. Yep. You gotta learn from what Mel Brooks teaches us.
Yes, this is true.
I will say really quick. One of the other things about this episode I like that we kind of glossed over.
Oh, my bad.
Is no, it's totally fine. I was wondering if they were going to tease out the A-Train revelation, like that he knew that he remembered what happened at the end of season 1, because I was like, are they going to be like, oh, the Compound V heart attack gave him amnesia or whatever?
I'd have bought that.
And I will credit this show, like they're burning through so much stuff that they take so long to get through in the comics. Like something like this would have been pushed off for like 10 issues before A-Train was like, oh fuck, right, Starlight betrayed us. But like literally the first, like in that episode, he's back with it. He's like, yeah, I remember you helped your boyfriend escape. Yeah. Right after he hands off the Prince guitar that he bought for whatever reason.
Oh right, I forgot to mention the Prince guitar.
Yeah,
he bought Prince's guitar, and that's really fun. That was really funny to me because I like a lot of the post-death Prince merch. So like I'm on the email list. It's one of the few things I haven't unsubscribed from, and they sold a limited edition of that guitar for like many thousands of dollars recently. But I just thought it was really funny. Like, oh, the boys' prop department bought one of the guitars.
Yep. I saw it, and the first thing I thought was like, that's either Prince's guitar or one of Les Claypool's 8 million basses.
Either would have been good, but I'm glad I'm glad that a Prince guitar showed up in the show.
Oh, absolutely.
You think it came out of Jeff Bezos' personal collection?
I would be mad if it did. I don't want Jeff Bezos to have a Prince guitar. He doesn't deserve it.
I don't want him to have anything nice other than the billions of dollars that he already...
Right,
well, I don't want him to have that, but he's already got it.
Right. But he shouldn't also have, like, the guitar of a guitar god.
No, absolutely.
Anyway, Maeve goes
Let's
to
keep
visit
talking about this
her
show
ex-girlfriend in the hospital who called and has appendicitis. And this is just kind of a nice scene. This is just like a nice little character scene for Maeve and them trying to reconcile a bit. And like we mentioned, this is where Maeve kind of like tells her like, look, if Homelander knew that we were close, he would murder you.
Yeah. I love that Maeve is more sympathetic in the show than she is in the comics too.
I like Maeve a lot in the show.
They write her a lot better. Like she's that way in the comics, but again, it's the same thing where it's like every 20 to 30 issues you get a glimpse that Maeve is a person and that she has regrets about the shit that they've done. But like every episode with her, like the actress playing her is doing a fucking amazing job. Like she's really vulnerable, she's really believable, she's really well written and sympathetic. I think she's doing a great job.
Yeah, I totally agree. I really look forward to all the Maeve related stuff just because like that character is cloudier than the rest of the characters. Like Stormfront, we don't really know what's going on yet, but like the rest, you know, we have like very clear ideas of like what way they're leaning, what their ultimate motives are. But the whole Maeve is just a giant gray area that I really, really like.
Yeah, she's got a conscience. She's clearly suffering from survivor's guilt on top of everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like one of the more nuanced characters on the show for sure.
Totally agree.
Yeah. I also like that we got to see her in civilian clothes because aside from Starlight, we've not seen any of the 7 wear anything like that. They've all been in their like super costumes the whole time.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. We see Translucent in dress clothes for Jimmy Fallon in the first season.
No, that's true. Yeah,
that's true.
Like even the Deep when he's like getting drunk.
Yeah, he's still wearing his uniform.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's because he is a fragile little man.
Yes.
So, but we'll get to him. Homelander is still just hanging out and terrorizing Becca and her son. He's spending time with her. Becca is not happy about this, so she takes a bit of a drive while he's at, I think, a piano lesson. While the kid's at a piano lesson, is that right? Yep. And Homelander's just kind of like hanging around the house and not leaving. And we find out that they're basically being kept in a large, isolated compound of some time, squirreled away from the world. They're just like being protected somehow by Vought and a guy named Dr. Park. And Becca's
being kept.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. They're being kept in a modern day version of M. Night Shyamalan's The Village.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And Park is basically saying like, look, we know the deal that we made. We know the deal was you would never have to see him and he would interact with the kid. But like, he says toothpaste is out of the tube. Like, we can't do anything now. And it's that. So, and Homelander hears the whole thing.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he calmly, threateningly, and terrifyingly tells her that he's not going anywhere, and then asks for popcorn.
Yep.
He's so evil. He's so... the only other character I ever felt this way about, or the first time I can remember feeling this way was like Chris Cooper in Adaptation, where I was just like, I hate you and I want you to die. Like... yeah, Homelander, deeply evil.
Oh, yeah.
Anthony Starr's
So
performance
terrifying.
is just great. I mean, like, he's really, really great. I will never be able to see him. It'll take me a while. It's like, who's it? I feel this way about the guy who played Roy on The Office. Anytime he comes up on something, I'm just like, fuck this guy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Anthony Starr, also from New Zealand, just like
Really?
Carl Urban. Yeah. There are a lot of people in this show that have accents other than the ones they have.
Yeah,
because
that's
Carl
interesting.
Urban is doing a London accent, and then Anthony Starr is doing American. The actress who plays Maeve is Irish.
Simon Pegg as an American.
Yes. And then, Dustin, you can go ahead and talk about the Simon Pegg connection.
So in the comics, Huey is Scottish.
Oh, interesting.
And in the comics, he is deliberately modeled after Simon Pegg in his physical appearance.
Yeah. Look up Huey in the Boys comic, and it's just like, this is Simon Pegg.
Yeah.
That's really funny.
So when they announced Jack Quaid, I was like, he doesn't look like Simon Pegg at all. He is very like strikingly, like overtly handsome. Not that Simon Pegg is unattractive, but well, when you come from the right Quaid's genes, you're handsome. But Huey is also, again, like I said earlier, written way better in the show because like Huey in the comics is like, he's homophobic. He's got a lot of like repressed ideas about like female sexuality and shit. Like Huey kind of fucking sucks in the comics. Like 20% of the time you're on board, and then 80% of the time you're just like, oh, Jesus Christ, we need to stop being friends on Facebook or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, that's upsetting to know. I've just learned that my recording device did not go. And I haven't been recording the whole show. Oh, wait, maybe I have? I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Technical difficulties abound. Well, get ready for an unmixed podcast, everybody. Anyway, sorry. Meanwhile, in Sandusky, Ohio, the Deep is taking the advice of the Church of the Collective and being guided by Eagle the Archer. And Eagle gives him some magic mushroom tea. And then the Deep proceeds to trip balls.
Yes.
And his gills begin talking to him. And his gills are voiced by Patton Oswalt.
Yes, which you talked about the Rolling Stones song you want to retire. I would also like to retire Patton Oswalt voicing everything.
Specifically voicing hallucinations.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like I love Happy. I think that's a really great show. But that was like where I was like, okay, Patton Oswalt has fulfilled his ultimate destiny as the co-lead imaginary flying thing. He needs to do other things.
Remember when John Benjamin had the voiceover market cornered as a can of vegetables?
I
do. Yeah.
Those were simpler times.
Wasn't there, like, what was the show that John Benjamin was doing a voice on that was running concurrently with Archer, where he was, so it was like
Bob's Burgers?
Was it? Oh yeah, yes, it's Bob's Burgers.
Yeah, because they did the crossover episode on Archer.
Yeah,
which was fucking great.
I love John Benjamin. Have you heard his jazz album? Why is my brain like this? Okay.
I have not.
Would you like a fresca?
I would. I'm almost out of my Coke.
Yeah, my show drink is running low because we're talking about The Boys.
Well, because we're talking about 3 episodes of The Boys.
Yeah, we are. So getting back to so the Deep's doing some just like funny self-reflexive stuff in this. He's actually like starting to realize he's actually starting to come to grips with like his problems and like accepting them. And it is actually like this is like a real character growth scene for the Deep, funnily enough.
I like that Patton Oswalt as the Deep's gills is the same as Patton Oswalt's character in Young Adult, basically.
Yeah.
It's just him telling this beaten down character at their lowest that they're worthy of being loved.
It's so funny.
And that they've always been loved.
That's so funny. Oh boy. Okay, so the ultimate climax of the episode is so I'm so sorry to Lisa Miller, because I literally just read the ultimate climax of the episode out of her article, and I'm such a shit. I'm so sorry. Thank you. But so the boys got the info, and they kind of figured out where Kenji is being kept, and it leads them to the secret headquarters of what they learn is the group that had kidnapped and forcibly dosed Kimiko and Kenji with the Compound V, which is Shining Light. Mm-hmm. As soon as they get in there, first thing Kimiko does is rip this dude's head right off.
Yep.
Which I'm like, yes, Kimiko, do it. The boys are ganging up on him. They're ready to take this dude down. And Kimiko gets there first and has a reconciliation and a reunion with her brother. And then Huey gets in the way of Butcher trying to shoot. Once they've all realized who this is, he gets in the way of Butcher trying to shoot Kenji. Mm-hmm. Which ultimately leads to Kenji bringing down the roof on them and trying to escape. Kimiko subdues him and they toss him in the van to bring him back, but they don't leave before Butcher really slugs Huey and goes, "You come between me and my missus again, I'll fucking kill you."
Yes.
And then we hear Psycho Killer.
Killer, another song that arguably should be retired.
I don't doubt that it's been in a lot of stuff. This is the first time in recent memory I can think of it being used in something.
Oh, that's good.
But that could also be because maybe I haven't watched as many bad movies that lean on it so lazily.
It's also possible that I've just listened to like too many like early era punk compilations, and I've just I've just heard Psycho Killer out of context far too many times.
Hey, we need a Talking Head song. Yeah, what about Psycho Killer?
They had 5,000 others. Did you know?
Life During Wartime. No, the kids aren't going to like this.
What about Nothing But Flowers? Oh, Kevin Smith cornered the market on that in 2006? Okay.
That is a good one.
That was a good
one. Really quick, a revelation that we kind of skipped over too.
Oh, my bad.
Right. Oh, no worries. Right before she finds out it's her brother, the guy who gets his head ripped off, they find out is a member of the Shining Liberation Front,
Shining,
which is the military force that destroyed her village and abducted her and her brother to begin with. So they're clearly in on the whatever Vought's doing with all this.
Right, and also it's worth mentioning that like Kenji kind of is successfully brainwashed. Like,
yes,
what is
very
trying
much
to
so.
is
Like,
trying to carry out the mission of Shining Light.
Yep.
And that's why they have to subdue him, because he's like, oh no, I can't do this. I have this other thing I have to do.
Yeah. No talking to him.
So yeah. And that's kind of it for episode 2, I think, right? That hits all the stuff.
Yeah. There's one thing.
What did I skip?
I wanted to go a little. Well, you didn't skip. You talked about it briefly, but a little bit more of Starlight and Stormfront's scene, where she's talking to her about what she can do to be better, and she says like the next time that a guy like puts his dick in your face, bite it off.
Oh
She
yeah, I
talks
forgot to go about her whole Pippi Longstocking story,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
which is pretty great.
Pippi Longstocking would bite a D. That's for damn sure.
She would. It's true. And it's good advice. I agree with her advice. Bite a D.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you?
Bite a D. And that was like after this episode, like until episode 3, I was like, yeah, Stormfront. Fuck yeah. The girl that's gonna bite some dude's dick off.
Yep.
Pippi Longstocking would bite a D. That's for damn sure.
And the whole time I was just wondering, all right, when's it coming?
When's she gonna say white is right?
Yep. Oh,
And then
boy.
she does in the next episode.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
Dustin?
Yep, she puts on her MAGA uniform. So episode 3, season 2 is Over the Hills with the Swords of 1,000 Men. 2 comic book notes really quick before I dive into it. First, all the episodes have been titled after issues of the show, which is great. It's kind of weird because Over the Hills with the Swords of 1,000 Men is the title of the penultimate trade. Like it happens in the last 12 issues or so of the run. So I was curious, and then they announced, oh no, we're going to do season 3. I was like, okay, cool. So we're not there yet. And then the other thing, another big crucial difference that they've done in the show that is different from the comics is in the comics, the boys are aware of the existence of Compound V. The public
interesting.
isn't. But the boys know about it from the jump. From the minute Mallory recruits them, they find out that that's how soups are made. And each of the boys is dosed with a diluted version of Compound V, which is what allows them to go toe-to-toe with superheroes in the book.
Interesting.
I think it's a very cool and challenging choice that they don't do that in the show.
Yeah, I agree.
Because it keeps them in danger. Because, like, in the comics, you don't really get a sense of danger very often. Because you know that Butcher can punch someone like Popclaws or A-Train's head right off their body without any issue. But in this, you're just like, they're using guns. They're running away because they have to. And I think that keeps things more interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So on that note, with discretion, sorry, go ahead.
I was
Travis.
going to say, and they're always at like this standstill because of like this agreement. So they,
like this shaky truce that they have.
yeah. So they can never truly go all in on it. And that's how Huey ends up killing a soup, is because he doesn't know his own strength, and he ends up killing one of them. They're like, Huey, what did you do?
Yeah, just punches through one of the members of Teenage Kicks. And that's the other thing, too, I think we're going to see in this season that also comes from that. They keep talking about Mallory's grandkids, but we, at least in the show, have not gotten any real backstory or in-depth explanation about Mallory's grandkids, which I feel like has to come this season because we're seeing her a lot more.
Yeah.
So all that aside, Over the Hills with the Swords of 1,000 Men. So the episode opens on a boat with Huey watching the music video for Billy Joel's You're Only Human Second Wind on his cell phone.
Yeah, it's his
It's
happy
like-
place.
It started with that video. I was like, did I select the wrong thing on my streaming
I
channel?
thought
What's
the same
going
thing
on?
for a minute.
And then I was like, oh, okay. I'm pretty sure that's Billy Joel in that trench coat with the harmonica. Okay, yes, no. As soon as I saw Billy Joel, I was like, okay, no, this is part of the show. I know this is part of the show now that I know that William Joel is the mysterious man on the bridge. Butcher,
Mr. William Joel.
Mr. William F. Joel, which I also love that they've used 2 Billy Joel songs. 3 now.
Yeah.
And none of them obvious choices, which is really great.
Yeah. We haven't heard Piano Man.
Yeah.
We will.
Except at the beginning of You're Only Human, because he plays it on the harmonica for a second.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. Billy Joel made a tweet on Friday about season 2, and he's like, "Enjoy all my songs that are in season 2."
He's like, I really appreciated the payday on this one since I couldn't tour this year, you guys.
Yep, I got to go cash the check before the Labor Day weekend, baby. So Huey's watching the video on his phone, and Butcher approaches to speak with him, and he gives the worst apology in the world, essentially. And Huey takes a swing at him, and then breaks him up before they get into it. Too bad. Then Butcher follows up with Mallory to check in. Mallory mentions somebody named Liberty, an older superhero that we don't really get any kind of insight into, but we're probably going to see them again at some point because the show's done a really good job of showing us something and then making sure to follow through on it at some point. And he also mentions Kimiko's brother, Kenji, and that if there's any kind of tension from that with her siding with her brother or the team, that he will deal with it, which Frenchie is not happy about at all. And then Kimiko goes to Kenji. She promises to protect him. He asks her to let her go. She says sorry and leaves him in there. Then we go see A-Train. He's still using Compound V because he's still having heart palpitations or what the fuck ever it is that he does. And then we go back to the worst person in the world, Homelander.
Oh my god.
Having breakfast with Becca and Ryan, and his wife shows when he shows contempt for their breakfast in Espanol.
Yeah. I did want to point out in that scene, that poor kid doesn't get to eat a damn thing before.
Right? As soon as they left, I was like, Becca slaved over those fucking pancakes, you son of a bitch. Are you kidding me with this shit? If I ever would, like, if somebody cooked for me, my mom, my fiance, anybody, and I was just like, I'm not going to eat this right now. I'm going to go hang out with this guy who sexually assaulted you. At the very least, I would get a scowling look in my direction. And I would deserve it.
Yeah.
Ryan, you bastard.
Bastard.
But also, when that person is one of the most powerful beings on Earth, you might be a little bit like, I guess I should do this.
Right.
That's a fair point. Although I feel like if Ryan had known what was going to happen, he wouldn't have. But we'll get to that. So then we cut back to the Seven's Tower, where a writer who looks just like most of us who run podcasts is pitching a preview for the upcoming Rise of the Seven film to Ashley and the Seven, minus Homelander, who's not there. I actually like... Again, at this point, still on board with Stormfront, knowing that something's going to change eventually. But she offers notes on the script and largely criticizes all of the female dialogue, portraying them as unknowable Hitchcock bitches or Michael Bay fuck dolls.
What a great line.
Oh, fucking amazing line. I was like, yeah, no, that tracks in most of the superhero media we've seen, so I get it. It's like, oh, Scarlett Johansson's going to kill someone with her thighs again. Does she? She has guns. Let her use those. And then Ashley gets into it with Stormfront for a second, but then receives an urgent message. She leaves. She catches up to Edgar, who lets him know that they're investigating a leak because the public now knows about Compound V. And she also says she has to tell Homelander, and Edgar, in no uncertain terms, lets her know that he doesn't fucking answer to the Homelander. Which, again, is just testament to how badass Giancarlo Esposito is, because he's just a normal guy who's not going to take Homelander's diva bullshit.
Yeah, just it's the same energy he brought to Breaking Bad. He's just like, I don't care what you are, what you've done. I have the power here, and I don't care.
Yeah, even when he cuts a guy's throat with a box cutter, he's still the coolest, calmest guy in the room.
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing. Like, that scene in the I think it was the first episode where Homelander talks to him the first time in his office. Like, just him turning the tables on him is so fucking good. Like, chilling scene. Like,
Yeah.
like the only other time I really get that vibe is like the Christopher Walken and Dennis Hopper scene in True Romance.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Like, just like these two huge personalities meeting and neither one of them backing down. It's just amazing.
Yeah, totally.
So moving on to the episode, we find out Starlight's leaked Compound V to the press. Vought stock starts plummeting as the legal team's trying to do damage control. And A-Train confronts Starlight about it, threatening to expose her, and she counters with more of what we saw earlier, where she says, if I go down, you go down with me. And he's upset because it fucks with the money, and she says the money's not the important part. And I will say, one of the only sympathetic moments that A-Train has had so far is when he mentions that the only people who don't care about money are the ones that came up with it. So that little moment, we get that he probably came up poor. Yeah. He's probably struggled, which probably explains why he got injected with Compound V. His family probably took a payday for it.
Yeah.
So in that brief moment, A-Train, sympathetic, just for a second.
Half a second.
Yeah.
He is one of the least like sympathetic characters.
Yeah.
Like Homelander, you hate, but he's just like so like weaselly to it. Like,
yeah. Like A-Train shows like glimpses of his humanity, because like we see it right before he kills Popclaw.
Mm-hmm.
But he still fucking kills Popclaw.
And then he like blames Huey. He's like, "You killed her. I did it, but it's because of you."
Yeah. And it's like, oh nope, right? You're garbage. You're dog shit. Got it. So then the news breaks. The story's going wide. Huey leaves Annie a voicemail about it, and MM realizes that Huey and Starlight did it, and him and Frenchie congratulate him. And Butcher, continuing to be very Butcher about things, just gives him a meager, "Oh, great job." And that's keeping pretty true to Butcher's character in the comics. Butcher is an absolute fucking bastard in the comics. Like, he's kind of been an absolute fucking bastard in the show too, but having his wife still alive is definitely a shift in the opposite direction on that, which I think was a good decision. Because like he's borderline unlikable by the halfway point in the comics.
Yeah, we have enough unlikable characters in the series already. Better to keep one of our protagonists likable, I feel.
Exactly. And like we'll cover in the rest of this episode, I'm glad they did it, because by the end of this episode, I think he gets to a point where he's kind of more human and sympathetic again, which is good, because he was in danger of not being that way. So then we cut back to Becca's house. Homelander takes Ryan up onto the roof, tries to coax him into jumping off the roof, because Ryan's abilities will kick in since Homelander's his dad.
Which is I want to talk about this too, because like Homelander is convinced that Ryan has powers. Even though it's not been displayed, and Compound V is a drug that gives people powers. So correct me if I'm wrong, but there has not yet been a case where there is actually powers being passed down by genetics. Is that correct?
Not that has been acknowledged in the show.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I was wondering about that myself too, because I was like, oh, maybe Homelander doesn't know. I was like, no, he's known about Compound V almost from the beginning at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So like, he knows that he was made in a lab. He knows his background.
Right.
So like, yeah, part of me is like, is this coming from an actual belief or his blind desperation to kind of latch onto something?
Right.
And I think it's the latter, because he's so certain, with no proof whatsoever, that would be the case.
Yeah.
There is, at the very end of season 1, there's a bit of a visual cue where we see,
tease it a little.
Yeah, Ryan's eyes begin to glow.
Oh, did they? And I just forgot that happened. Okay.
But it's so brief. Again, it's one of those blink and you miss it kind of things.
Sure.
And like, we see it, but we don't know that Butcher and Homelander see it.
Sure. Yeah.
And again, just because he got the heat vision doesn't mean that he's got flight and the other abilities.
Right.
So like that's really, it's definitely a gamble. So then Ryan says something to the effect of, "Please don't make me jump, Daddy," or Dad. And Homelander has like almost humanized himself. He's like, "Oh, you called me Dad," and then goes right back to Homelander and just shoves him off the fucking roof, which is what I was waiting to happen from the start of that scene.
Yeah.
He falls face first to the ground, does not fly. Becca rushes out, like, terrified that he's hurt himself. Homelander gets defensive, believing he's fine. Finally, Ryan recovers And Becca starts going off on him, tells him she doesn't want him there and all that shit. And Homelander fucking grabs her because she has the audacity to get indignant about the time that he raped her. And then he grabs her, and then Ryan shoves him several feet away and then kicks in angry laser eyes.
Yeah.
Which Homelander is thrilled about. He even gets up. He's like, I'm not even mad about it. And Ryan yells that he fucking hates him, and then he and Becca go back in the house, and we leave the Homelander family.
Right.
Yeah.
That is where we leave them in the episode, right?
That's where we leave the family. That's where we leave Becca and Ryan. Yeah, we don't see Becca and Ryan again after
right. Sorry, Trav.
I was gonna say I just love the that beat after Ryan falls off, and like Homelander's just standing up there, and he's like, "Oh,
yeah." Like, which part of me there was a brief part of me that was like, that kid's dead.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I'm like, we don't know this kid has powers. I think he might have just murdered this little boy.
Like, I was half expecting Homelander, like, after he made that just, well, whatever, to just fly away and go try to knock somebody else up.
Right.
It's like, it didn't take with this one. You know, if at first you don't succeed. So then we cut back to the boat. Frenchie goes to Kenji with cheese powdered snacks and a turbo fuel energy drink with Homelander on the can, and tries to convince Kenji to teach him the sign language that they had developed to communicate, because part of me was wondering, I was like, if Kimiko can use sign language, why the fuck hasn't she tried it with any of them?
Right, but it's
and
an
then he said,
invented language.
Exactly, yeah. Frenchie acknowledges that, which is good, because I was about to say, I was like, that's kind of like, I feel like one of them could at least look up ASL and figure it out.
Right.
But then it's like, oh no, it's a language we made up. It was like, okay. Kenji tells him a little bit about he and Kimiko, and then when Frenchie asks, he, for the second time, says fuck you to him. And Frenchie leaves the can and the snacks there, and Kenji's able to wiggle his thumb loose to use his telekinesis to, I assume, shred the can into a lockpick or something to cut the tape. That's what it is.
Yeah. Because that was the thing I was wondering about Kenji's character as well, like where his power actually was. Because anytime I see, like, even if they're doing this with their hands, I assume it's a mental ability, and they're just kind of focusing the energy through their hands. But if they try hard enough with their brain, they could do the same thing.
Yeah, because I was thinking that too. I was like, how do you restrain a telepath short of just, crushing their skull?
Right, but as we learn in this episode, like, his power does seem to actually be in his hands.
Comes from his hands.
Yeah. So that's interesting. That's an interesting thing for that type of a power.
For sure.
Yeah.
So then we move on. Maeve calls Elena from the Seventh Tower and talks to her briefly, and then it ends the call when Homelander pops up and asks her about Elena, and she starts lying and kind of playing down Elena's importance, because we've already seen that speech about how jealous Homelander is and the lengths he'll go to if he thinks that somebody else wants Maeve.
Right.
And then he has that weird moment where it almost seems like he's accepted that Becca and Ryan are not going to be his family.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's the case, but he seems defeated when he returns.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the first time in the episode we see him take his gloves off, or the first time in the series I think we see him take his gloves off, if I remember right.
I think you're right.
So he goes in, he confides in Maeve. She's the only one he can lean on, and she very clearly and reluctantly lies through her teeth that she feels the same way. And then we cut back to the boys on the boat. The NYPD has tracked them down because the ship, My Big Wet Dream, was apparently stolen. And as Butcher tries to negotiate with the police and talk his way out of it, an anchor comes flying up out of the water that MM warns him to duck out of the way of. Kenji shows up, having broken free. He tries to take out Butcher, but then Kimiko restrains him, and he ends up accidentally misfiring and taking the chopper down. Then Butcher powers off, and Huey throws back a single life preserver to save him because Butcher doesn't want to stick around. Then we go back to the deep, back to Sandusky, Ohio, finally.
Yeah.
And earlier we saw the Deep talk about when he discovered his powers, but that was what it was. But now he's at a point where he's basically ready to leave Carol and Eagle and the Church of the Collective and all that bullshit. And then Carol shows up and has an offer for the Deep to rejoin the Seven. And
Would you like a fresca?
That's not the offer.
She should have offered him one. And then so he's on board again. And then we cut back to New York, where Vought's legal team is still trying to navigate the Compound V crisis. And now Edgar has received a photo taken of Kenji from the NYPD helicopter. So he's got an idea now, because the gears are turning. Then we go back to the boat. Butcher contacts Mallory, tells him to be careful. Huey leaves a voicemail for Annie, referencing the Billy Joel song, referring to her as his second win, this real nice thing. And then we go back to Seven Tower, where Edgar checks in. A-Train almost seems like he's going to rat out Starlight, but stops. And Edgar asks them to do PR and attempted damage control, and Homelander basically says, fuck that. Unites the Seven, and then tells them that they're going to go be superheroes, essentially, that they're not responsible to the company, and they leave to go track down Kenji. And then back on the boat, something rams the ship, and then we see a shitload of dorsal fins popping up in the water.
I love this scene.
This is a great scene.
I love this.
Like, when we first see the ship get hit, my first thought was like, okay, Homelander just flew into the side of their boat.
Right.
And then as soon as we see dorsal fins, I was like, damn, the Deep got out of Sandusky really fast.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is such a fun scene, and especially because I've had Jaws on the mind all summer because of another project I'm working on. The first thing I thought of was Jaws when Butcher runs down below deck and everything to check it out.
Yeah.
But then they have to abandon ship. They jump in a smaller motorboat. All the while, MM and Butcher take turns at firing an assault rifle at dolphins or sharks. We're not sure which.
Right.
Because we only ever see the dorsals. And then the Deep surfaces riding the back of a whale, which is maybe one of the best, funniest visuals this season we've gotten so far.
Freaking good.
It's so great. Like, they've definitely turned the Deep into a very funny character.
Yeah.
And I'm glad they're leaning into it, because the worst thing anyone ever did with Aquaman was take him seriously.
Yeah, dude. James Wan's Aquaman was hilarious. There were talking crab people.
When Dolph Lundgren is the most consistent actor in your movie, like, don't get me wrong, I love Dolph Lundgren as an action star, but
yeah,
Jesus.
Yep.
Whoever said, hey, we should have Patrick Wilson as an over-the-top comic book villain, grossly overestimated just how intimidating Patrick Wilson's receding hairline is.
But it looks, but you can just watch the CG hair flow in the ocean.
But hey, at least Django Fett got a paycheck, so good on him.
Yeah, good for him.
So the Deep, riding the back of the whale, who we later learn is named Lucy, beaches the whale on shore to block their escape route, and Butcher, being the fucking madman he is, accelerates and crashes the boat into the stomach of the whale.
That was diabolical.
It's so gross. And I love how the Deep, like, it was nowhere in his brain that was possibly an option.
Right?
Like, there was no version of the scenario in which that would be Butcher's choice.
He gets up there and he, like, makes the pose, like, I'm here.
Yeah.
And then when Billy's, like, starts to speed up, they show the Deep, and he, like, takes this stance where he, like, his legs are spread wide and he's got his arms out, and it's like, what are you gonna do, man?
I love it too, because, like, there's a brief moment where they close up on him and you see it in his eyes that he knows what's about to happen.
Yeah.
And that he has given poor Lucy no way out of this situation.
That's his I've made a huge mistake moment.
Yes. Yeah, God, it's so good. And, like, at no point did he think Lucy is bigger than that motorboat.
No.
She could just barrel roll onto them right now. They were ahead of them.
Right.
He could have turned and bitten their boat in half.
Yeah.
Like, it's so many options, and the one that the Deep thinks of is the one that even if she hadn't been impaled by a boat, still would have left her on land with no real way to return back to the ocean.
It's true, yeah.
Because, like, the Deep can fight and he's strong, but I don't think he can lift a whale. I love just how through this show, no less than 3 times, we've seen on paper his people, essentially, the animals that he loves, die as a direct result of his actions.
Yeah.
Because the dolphin that he kidnaps goes through the windshield and gets run over by the semi.
So funny.
The lobster who gets stabbed in the brain when he buys it at the supermarket.
That poor lobster.
And then this Lucy, this fucking whale. Like, he's like the worst case scenario version of an underwater Jack Burton. Like, because he doesn't directly affect anything for good, but he also absolutely affects them for the worst.
Right.
Which is fucking beautiful. So the Deep's incapacitated. They all end up inside the whale.
Yeah.
They all come out of it, and Huey remains inside, deciding that he's going to wait on his second wind to come and just deciding that he's had enough. Butcher says fuck it, leaves. MM goes in after him, tells him he won't leave without him, so Huey decides not to fuck MM. The 7 arrive. Homelander tells Deep to stand down. The rest of the team goes into the tunnels after the boys and Kenji. MM has a brief exchange with Butcher where he tells Butcher he needs to be better to Huey because Huey's his canary, which is... I love that anytime anyone in the show gives someone a pep talk, it's a really terrible pep talk full of like mixed metaphors that make zero sense.
It is, yeah.
Like the Spice Girls pep talk from season 1.
Yeah.
That's a great pep talk too.
Oh, it's so good. So then Starlight catches up to Huey, knocks him down even though he's eager to see her. He thinks he's got the voicemail. Then Homelander catches up to him, recognizes Huey, and tells her Starlight to kill her. She's going to kill them both. Then Butcher distracts Homelander with a trademark, oi cunt. And Homelander makes a disgusting reference to Becca's pancakes. And then it turns out that they freed Kenji. So Kenji runs out and brings down a train and the entire surface, among other things, down on Homelander's head. And then he escapes, pursued by Kimiko. Then they get attacked by Stormfront, and this is where things finally take the fucking turn that I was waiting on.
Yeah, this was horrifying. I was actually like horrified during this.
As soon as I saw that they were knocked into the apartment of a black family, I was like, oh, fuck me. I know exactly what's going to play out here. God damn it. Because even on the Wikipedia article, they list her character as a closet racist. So I was like, okay, well, when are they going to reveal that? And then as soon as they burst in that home, I was like, okay, now is when they're going to do this. Awesome. This is going to be awful. So she goes in there pursuing Kimiko and Kenji, then kills a father and his children for no reason other than she's just disgusted with them.
Right, and she can just pin it on Kenji, ultimately.
Exactly. Then continues pursuing Kenji and Kimiko up to the roof. And then, just to remind you that it wasn't a fluke, she throws another black resident right out of a 3rd-story window.
Right out.
To his death, and then blows up an entire floor, and you just hear all these screams.
Yeah.
Literally up until the end of this scene, you hear screams in the background the whole time.
Yeah, I love when it cuts to outside and we just see this exterior shot of the building, and we can just see the guy flies out the window, and then we just kind of see and hear parts of the chaos and carnage happening inside as the camera just like tilts up to the roof until they exit on the roof. It was a really nice moment in the show. Really well done.
It was great. Well, and again, it was a great visual way to convey. It's like,
totally.
Nope. This isn't Kenji and Kimiko. This is all Stormfront doing this because she's a fucking awful Nazi or whatever.
Right.
So then Stormfront catches up to Kimiko. Kenji goes back to save her. And then Kenji gets his hands broken, so he's unable to defend himself.
That was so...
Yeah. Just seeing hands snapped in general. Like, it was even unpleasant when it happened to poor Haley Joel Osment in the first season. So
it was. Oh, I liked him so much in the first season.
He was. I really liked his character, and oh boy, Butcher did not. So
nope.
So then Stormfront kills Kenji, but not before she calls him a, quote, fucking yellow bastard. And then snaps his neck. I was like, yeah, this was all on purpose.
She wasn't referring to the Sin City character?
I did not see Nick Stahl anywhere, so I don't believe so.
Not a lot of people have seen Nick Stahl recently, I feel like.
That's true. Not since Carnival. So then Homelander shows up immediately afterwards. Kimiko's used the opportunity to get away now that she knows Kenji's dead. And Homelander chews her out, saying, I told you to wait on me, that it was my caller and whatever else. And she just responds, you snooze, you lose, Gramps. And he has one of his trademark angry stare into the distance moments. And then the next thing we cut to is what's clearly like a high school gym or something that's been converted to a temporary relief and aid center, where a bunch of the building's inhabitants, the survivors, are being given medical aid, food and supplies and whatever else they need, handed out by the Seven, all while Edgar is giving a press conference pinning the murders and the destruction on Kenji, the super terrorist, and using that as a further point to argue the case for Supes in the military. And just their necessary existence to begin with. And the boys watch the conference. Butchie and Huey have kind of a wordless exchange, but it seems like they've made up. And then Homelander and Kimiko both give Stormfront the same scowling, glaring look, as Stormfront is praised as hero today, and even parrots out Homelander's "You're the real hero" speech that he's done so many times before.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get some intense score this time instead of a pop song to end the episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was so ready for Second Wind to be the end of the episode.
Right?
Yeah.
They did it with pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a heck of a first 3 episodes. They power through so damn much. I love when shows do this. When like they power through so much plot in just like an amount of time that you would think that they would cover over 2 or 3 times the number of episodes that plot could cover.
Yeah, well, and this episode too, like I feel like each of them was building up more and more, and this episode I feel like was almost too much to cram into an episode.
Yeah.
There was so, like, my synopsis that I was going along with, 3 goddamn pages typed up. There's a lot.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of little details too.
Yeah.
But they did a great job with it. Like it doesn't feel overcrowded. It doesn't feel like, like Spider-Man 3 or something,
right,
where there's just too much shoved into it. It still felt very manageable, and there were a lot of great moments, a lot of great payoffs. The deep on a fucking whale.
The deep on a whale. That whole scene. I love the sharks. I'm like, oh, the deep is back.
Yeah. And he's still as dumb as he was in the first
season. Dumb as a bag of hammers. It's so good. Yep.
But yeah, that, and then finally the reveal with Stormfront, like, yeah, all great. Even her haircut seems suspect. Because, like, don't get me wrong, like, I know a lot of Riot Girls use, like, the side cut and stuff, but unfortunately I feel like that's largely been co-opted by alt-right and neo-Nazis the last couple of years.
Has it?
For men and women. For guys especially. Richard Spencer ruined that fucking haircut.
Oh, that's true. What a fucking shitbird.
Well, at least he got punched in the face for it.
Not enough. Not enough goddamn times.
Well, hey, the decade is young, so.
That's true. There's a lot of places for this to go.
What are we on? Month 23 of 2020? I've lost track.
My God, I have since the date of state of emergency was declared in the nation, March 2nd. I've been keeping a running count of just like quarantine day, whatever. That will continue up until I first work. Right now, we're up to day 176.
Oh God!
Shoot me in the brains.
No,
don't. I still mostly enjoy my life, but it's annoying.
Yeah, life's mostly good, but the world is exhausting.
The world is really exhausting.
And if we're to believe Billy Corgan, it is also a vampire.
You know what, dude? Considering the amount of energy I went into this year with and the amount of energy I have now, I'm gonna fucking agree with Billy Corgan.
Yeah, we are. Despite all our rage, we're all just rats in the cage. And the cages of our own making.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Because it's our home that I built brick by brick. The tragedy is, like, the high points have been, like, looking forward to shows like this, and then, like, season 2 of The Mandalorian coming, like, because we can't count on movies anymore with any consistency.
Oh, what are you talking about? The best movie of 2020 came out 2 weeks ago, and it was called Bill and Ted Face the Music.
That is an exception. On the whole,
No, it's totally an exception. That movie is somehow like a perfect anathema to what's going on, and I wish there was enough Bill and Ted content to fill a dedicated Bill and Ted podcast, but there's not. So,
no, not even if you count the series, which was what, maybe a season?
No, there's 2 seasons of the animated series and 1 season of a live action series. There are also 4 different comic series and a 5th one about to start. But you know, Bill and Ted.
Yeah.
But no,
so
this is super fun. I'm very into this show. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of this podcast, because otherwise I probably would have just just not picked up back watching the second half of the first season and probably not watched this season. I'm really enjoying it. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes.
yeah, same.
Yeah. Excited as well. I kind of wish that Amazon had not dropped the first 3 episodes the way they did, so that we could parse it out a little more. But
Yeah.
I do understand the reasoning behind it. I feel like they probably felt very strongly about episode 3 and that
Yeah.
big set piece and everything that happens in it. So they were probably very anxious to be like, let's get that out. Let's get these first 3 out and get people talking.
Yeah,
Because
well, it's so they can get us to talk for 2 hours.
Mhm.
It's so that
Well,
they can have. There's Justin. Just before you got on, I saw people. There was 2 people on Twitch that were literally. It was just a camera pointing at them watching The Boys. Just this young man and young woman just watching The Boys. They sat there silently and just watched The Boys for like the minute and a half I was looking. The girl was holding a baby doll. She would cover its eyes occasionally. 46,500 viewers.
How many do we got? 47?
Total between the 3 streaming services we're on?
47 and a half?
Possibly up to 4.
Travis, you got a kid. Come on.
could use, yeah.
Clearly,
Possibly up to 4.
the missing component is a child.
Yeah.
Well,
That's right. I mean,
What if I hold my Bantha doll? Will that work? this Bantha doll, does this count?
I bet if it was a Baby Yoda, people would fucking tune in.
Oh, true.
oh, that's right.
But
Got to
you know
get
what?
one of those.
I
for
always
Mandalorian.
wanted this Bantha doll because of Lumpy in the Star Wars Holiday Special, and I always thought a Bantha doll looked really cute. And then in the Disney store like 5 years ago, there was a friggin' stuffed Bantha, and it was on sale, and I purchased it, and it's in my arms now.
Well, why would you not?
Removable head?
No, not with a removable head. Thank you.
You know, something that might explain the reasoning behind the 3-episode drop is, like, when last year they released it all at once, but, like, people are home now all
Sure.
the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think maybe the fear is if they only dropped 1 episode a week is that people would tune in and kind of forget about it.
Yeah.
But, like, if they give us a couple, oh my God, they're drug dealers.
Well, they're realizing
They're giving us a taste.
They're remembering what Lost did, right? Which is like be the water cooler conversation. There's no other show that's the water cooler conversation right now. Like Tiger King came and went. That was
Yeah.
early quarantine. Like
That's how Netflix does it. I hate
I agree.
the
And
dumps.
And
so
something
much.
I read recently, apparently, like, there's angry fanboys that are review bombing The Boys, season 2 of The Boys, because Amazon didn't drop them all at once. And that's the only reason.
Oh no, I'm so glad that they're doing it this way.
Yeah, same.
If they had done a dump, we wouldn't be doing this show. I would
Yeah.
be like, I'll just watch this and
Yeah. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Destroy all nerds. Like,
Yeah.
shove everyone into a goddamn locker.
Yeah.
Like, we've shown that we can't be trusted. We've been given We got 2 Deadpool movies. What are we so mad about?
We got 3 seasons of an Evil Dead television show.
Yeah, right?
Like, come on. What
And
more?
what, you're bent out of shape because a girl is a Star Wars? Fuck off and die. Jesus.
Yeah,
There
man.
are not enough lockers in the world.
There aren't.
Okay, I'm stuck with bite of D.
Yes.
Damn sure.
It calls to mind the Adam and His Package song Avenger.
Yep.
You ever think about an island in the middle of the sea where we could drop all the no good dudes? Or maybe just you and me.
I support it. Whichever version it is, I'm for it.
I support Adam and His Package.
Same. I actually I was at the fest that he did the reunion set at a couple of years ago.
You were.
And I had to miss the show because I didn't get there until the morning after he played.
Oh, bummer. I watched video of that on YouTube, and I'm not kidding. Like, I cried when his daughter sang Upside Down from Here with him.
Yeah. Well, from what my friend who was there said, I probably wouldn't have been able to get it anyway because they put him in one of the smallest venues with the lowest capacity.
Yep.
So the line was wrapped around the block for the entire show,
That makes sense.
which is stupid. Like, you put him on the biggest venue. Like,
Yeah.
put him on the big stage. Like,
I agree.
That's the first time in years, but I love Fest, but sometimes they do boneheaded things.
Sure. As do all festivals. The Boys.
Like, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it's the first 3 episodes of season 2. I also did want to shout out the writer for episode 3, Craig Rosenberg, was talking about what his favorite scene was. And he said his favorite scene was when Huey was inside the whale, because he said it was pretty amazing as a writer to start a page with interior whale.
And have it so amazingly realized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not have it be a gritty movie adaptation of The Tale of Jonah.
Yes. Or Pinocchio.
Or a live adaptation of a Decemberist song.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
Which Billy called Huey Pinocchio.
Yeah,
and
I like that there's a little Pinocchio gag.
It took me like the second time watching that scene to be like, oh, because the whale. Because when he said Pinocchio, I think because Huey's a liar.
Oh.
The Starlight all the
Yeah,
time.
I always forget that there's that weird third act of Pinocchio where he drinks and smokes cigars, turns into a donkey, and then gets eaten by a whale.
Yep. That's actually
Yeah.
the part of Pinocchio I remember most prominently for some reason.
Because it gave
Well,
you the most nightmares.
That's probably true.
I mean, it's the most interesting part of the story
Yeah.
for sure. Because, like, the beginning of that third act is just the underground club in the first Ninja Turtles movie where they all skateboard and drink and play video games. And Sam Rockwell is there.
And Sam Rockwell is there. Matchstick Men's Sam Rockwell.
Yes.
So yeah,
Galaxy Quest, Sam Rockwell. Now you go, Travis.
yeah, that's the first 3 episodes of season 2 of The Boys. So starting next week, we're going to be just following like Amazon Prime is doling them out. We're going to be doing it on a episode by episode basis.
Thank fork.
So next week we are going to be covering season 2.
Actually, Travis, let me do that.
Yes, you go ahead and do
Yeah.
that. I tried to turn it down.
Yeah, no.
but that was terrible.
It's good. You're good. Go ahead.
So next week we'll be covering season 2, episode 4, Nothing Like It in the World.
Oh.
So until next week, Dustin, where can people find more of your work?
DustinMeadowsComedy.com. I'm blogging there occasionally. My merch is there. I'm at Dustin Meadows on all social media, Twitter, Instagram, whatever else.
Yep. And Travis vanished. That's
I did. Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Travis vanished. You're a spinning circle now. Oh, you're back. Great.
Okay.
You can find me at Alex Brunel on Twitter and Instagram. Please don't find me on Facebook. Yeah. Travis froze, I think. Can you hear me, buddy?
Yes.
Okay.
I can still hear you.
All right, so you talk. Outro,
Yes.
Where can people find the show and you?
And you can find the show, everywhere. We're on Apple Podcasts and anywhere you find podcasts. We are also on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can reach the show at whowatchespodcast@gmail.com. Please subscribe, leave reviews.
Do it.
Yeah, leave feedback. It is all greatly appreciated. And so, until next time, see you later.
Don't be an
you
asshole.
cunts. Yeah.
Ain't you twits lucky that I showed up, eh?